Hello, this is Lindsay Music with JL Ranch Training. This is Cash. He's an 8 or 10-year-old appendix gelding. His previous owner said that he had problems kicking out while trying to get on him, kicking at the farrier. 2 farriers deemed him impossible to trim and said that he would take thousands of dollars to fix and correct in training. So far, we have completed join up, some desensitizing as I'm doing here. We've lifted up all 4 feet, had the farrier trim the front 2, and the farrier's coming out next week to finish the last 2. He has had an abscess there in the time he is here, and it has come through, though he is still a little sore on it. So the progress has been delayed as well as mixed up a little bit. Normally I would not recommend going out of order. Prior to this, I did a little round of join up. This is where the horse voluntarily comes into the circle and willingly follows you around. I am preparing him for experiencing a rider today. Yes, you say this is not something new to him. However, it is something that he has learned to kick out at to avoid riding. So I start by going over some stuff that he already knows. I did join up, and now I'm moving on to desensitizing, working over the back and the rump, then over the neck, then the back legs, and then the front legs. Rewarding him each time with rest and ceasing the pressure. Now I'm going to go into yielding the hindquarters. I want to be sure that I can disengage his hindquarters if something should happen, whether it's on the ground or whether it's in the saddle. I want to see that inside leg cross over the outside leg. And the front end should ideally remain stationary, but as he is learning, and as he does have an abscess that causes his front left foot to be sore while maintaining weight, I do allow a little bit of minimal movement. As he heals to 100% and as he understands the drill, I will continue to ask more of him, asking that his front feet remain fairly still in a pivot. Now I'm going to continue on to go with yielding the front end. At this point, I'm ensuring that I have fairly good control of all parts of his body before I get on him. This also prepares him in a working mindset and gets him ready for the task that is about to come. I continue preparing him by rubbing him all over, as this is something I will do when I am up on top of him. I rub his hindquarters, rub his legs, rub his shoulders, neck, everywhere to make him comfortable with the movements. Now I'm going to prepare for riding by going to get my helmet. I recommend wearing a helmet when you're starting any new horse, or if you feel simply nervous in the saddle, or on a horse that may not be experienced. These are a lot of scenarios, and it should never be a shame to wear a riding helmet at any point in time. Safety is the utmost concern when it comes to starting, working with, or training horses. Now that I've done my prior groundwork, I feel that he is ready to move on to these steps. He has never had groundwork before in his life, so this is something that I use for a go back to if he needs a secure place to be with. I start out by jumping beside him. I want him to be desensitized to my body moving around him and rubbing him as I'm jumping, used to the movement and comfortable with it. Now with this horse, I'm going to discipline as soon as he moves his ears backwards in a frustrated manner. It's hard to see on camera, but there he did pin both ears for a split second, and so I immediately moved his feet. Since he has an aggressive behavior of kicking in order to stop the rider from mounting, I addressed this immediately and offered no mercy for the act at the time. So here on out, every time you see me move his feet, that is his ears going back and me feeling like he might be having a bad attitude about the situation. Some may wonder, what does moving his feet do? In order to get the respect of the horse, you must begin to move their feet forward, backwards, left, and right. Yes, that is the same by Clinton Anderson, and I will stick to that. I believe that it works, and I believe that it applies. When you watch horses in a herd, you see head mares move the horse's feet simply by pinning their ears. Sometimes it takes a little extra, a bite or a kick, to get the horses really moving. We're engaging in this behavior to gain the horse's respect by moving his feet. It is okay at some points to have no tolerance for aggressive behavior. Here, since he has gotten away with it so often, I want to assure him that this is not okay, and we will address this at the first sign of aggression, that is, with his ears back. This prohibits him from even thinking about moving to a kick or a bite. When preparing a horse to ride, I desensitize both sides just as I would desensitize him to anything else. I jump on the left side because that is the first side, and then I move to the right and jump on that side as well. I want my horse to be safe to mount on either side of his body, or the front or the back. I want him to be comfortable with my presence, bumping and touching him anywhere. It's important to do all of the same things that you just did before on the mounting block. This is an exceptionally tall horse. He's 16 hands, so I have to use the mounting block to be able to get on him. I rub him on both sides from each side. It's helpful if you can find a scratchy spot that they have. Notice how he raised his head, and I set about to working him immediately. I had to get onto him to get his button moving. Yes, you'll notice that he has a little bit of a limp if you haven't noticed it before. He is still sore from that abscess, and this is why we have not done a lot of forward movement things. As I was saying before, it does help if you find a scratchy spot so that you can make them even more comfortable with your presence up around them by scratching the withers or scratching his back where it feels really good. The more pleasant you can make the experience of mounting, the better off you'll be. You want the horse to enjoy your presence around him and not fear or be nervous around it. Once I feel he's ready, I will go ahead and jump with my belly on his back and then come right off. And I will do this until I feel that he is ready to proceed to the next step. I'm going to go ahead and acknowledge that he is a bit more stiff and pulls a lot when he goes clockwise. This is because the front left foot is sore and a lot of pressure is coming down on that, and he's trying to go to the softer ground, to the outside. He's also more in pain on that side, so he is more uncomfortable and showing that discomfort by pulling. As soon as I finish moving his feet, I get back to what we were doing at the moment that he started to act up. I like that he is standing calmly and alert while we are going through this process. I don't want a horse to act like they are on dopamine while I have them. I want them to be fully functional, awake, and alert and confident in what we are doing. I don't want them fearful, and if they are, this shows me that there are holes in where I've proceeded before and I've moved on too quickly. If a horse is fearful and is moving around a lot, you need to back up and figure out where you need to restart. Notice how that I'm rubbing him with both hands over the rump and over the neck at the same time. I want him to be fully comfortable with my presence, as I've said before. Make this like a mini grooming session while you're up there. Notice how I keep both feet together in case anything should happen. I don't want to end up astride him. I want to be able to slide down with both feet together. Once I feel comfortable with the left side, I go ahead and move to the right, and again do the same thing. This makes a more well-rounded horse. Here I'm asking him to tip his nose slightly in towards me. We have not done a lot of flexing at this point. However, I would have gone back and worked on that a little extra. I do prefer to include that in the beginning of my training. That being said, I was bouncing around quite a bit with his training to accommodate the abscess, and I did fail to do that part. We'll be going back and working more on that so that he can be softer through the face and to the bridle. When I ask for lateral flexion, I'm not pulling his head around. I'm putting a steady pressure or a feathering pressure on the lead or rein and holding it constant until he decides to give even a little bit. I'm not looking for his head to come around to my boot or even his shoulder. I'm simply asking him to give me an eye and a nostril. I don't believe true flexion needs to go much further than this. If they choose to give like he just did, I'll take it, but I'm not going to ask for more than an eye or nostril. As part of the desensitizing process, it's important to be able to rub him all over while you're getting him used to you being up there. Don't leave out the rump or the hindquarters while you're doing this. Not only am I going to have him flex while I'm up there a little bit, I'm going to have him just process the thought of me being up here. I don't want to rush into walking immediately, nor do I want to push him too far. I want him to feel my legs on him and get used to the sensation of me being up there. Whether this is an older horse or a younger horse, or a horse that's never had a rider to one that has had a rider but maybe developed bad habits, I try and stick to the same thing and be consistent every time, shaping the training process to that horse's needs. I feel like he can gain confidence by me just taking it extremely slow and treating him as a horse that's never had a rider before. He's been very receptive to the process so far. Some horses you'll be able to move a little bit faster, and that's okay. Just know your horse and what they need. Here I went ahead and asked him for a few steps just to follow his nose, and he did excellent. Spend time getting to know your horse, not always wanting to move. Ask him for a little flexion here and there, or just sit silently and let him enjoy your presence. Let him know that every time you mount, you're not going to be taking off and moving, doing hard patterns, running, even trotting, long trots. Just let him know that you're there to be a partner, you're there to be a friend, and you're not always there to work. He'll take more confidence in you if you do this.